Your heart races as an urgent email demands an immediate answer. The pressure feels physical, a weight on your chest. 2,000 years ago, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius faced pressures we can scarcely fathom, yet he wrote something profoundly simple. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength is not a vague idea. It is a set of specific, trainable skills. This video explores 15 mental models from Stoic philosophy, clear frameworks that govern calm decisions under constant pressure. By the end, you will possess a practical toolkit to navigate high-stakes moments with clarity, not chaos. How is it possible that ancient thinking holds the key to modern composure? What single shift in perspective can turn anxiety into focused action? What does your mind do in the split second before pressure dictates your reaction? The foundation of Stoic calm is knowing what is yours to command and what is not. This is the first mental model, the bedrock principle from which all others flow. It is called the Dichotomy of Control. The philosopher Epictetus, a former slave, framed it with stark clarity. Some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us. Our opinions, our impulses, our desires, and our aversions are within our sphere. Everything else, the actions of others, the weather, our reputation, even the final outcome of our most diligent work, belongs to the realm of things not up to us. The immediate pressure you feel in any situation is almost always a signal that you have blurred this line. You are pouring your emotional power. You move it from the category of a shocking catastrophe into the realm of a manageable event you have already considered. Imagine you have a crucial presentation, the one we just sorted. Premeditation would have you sit quietly beforehand and ask, what could realistically go wrong? The projector might fail, an audience member might ask a hostile question, your mind might go blank for a moment. The Stoic does not stop at the frightening image. They immediately follow it with a plan. If the projector fails, I have printed handouts. If someone is hostile, I will remain calm and reframe their point. If my mind blanks, I will pause, take a breath, and refer to my notes. This rehearsal does not invite the problem. It builds a mental fortress so that if adversity arrives, you are not panicking. You are simply executing a plan you already drafted. Seneca offered a deeper insight. We suffer more in imagination than in reality, he wrote. By premeditating difficulties, we shrink the terrifying phantom our minds create and confront the simpler, often smaller, reality. So consider one scenario that quietly worries you. What is the worst case you fear? Now, instead of pushing that thought away, invite it in for a moment. Examine it calmly. What is your specific, practical response? This act transforms anxiety from a fog of fear into a clear set of navigable steps. Premeditating difficulties builds resilience, but what if you could go beyond mere acceptance? The third mental model introduces a radical shift, a complete reframing of how we engage with life's inevitable challenges. It is called Amor Fati, a love of fate. This is not passive tolerance, not gritting your teeth to endure hardship. It is the active, deliberate embrace of everything that happens, the good, the bad, and the seemingly indifferent, as necessary and ultimately beneficial for your growth. While the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche later championed this phrase, its spirit is deeply Stoic. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to accept the twists of fate as part of nature's intelligent design. Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, he wrote, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will go well. This transforms the very fabric of experience. An obstacle is no longer a barrier to your path. It becomes the path itself, the raw material from which your character is forged. Consider a historical moment of profound setback. After a devastating fire destroyed his life's work, the inventor Thomas Edison did not frame it as a tragedy. He reportedly told reporters, "There is great value in disaster. All our mistakes are burned up. Thank goodness we can start anew." He saw the clearing of the old as a necessary condition for creating the new. In a modern context, imagine a career change forced by an industry shift or a company restructuring. The initial shock and fear are real. Amor Fati asks you to look beyond the loss. What doors did this closing force you to see? What skills did you have to develop that you otherwise would have neglected? What new path are you now walking that is uniquely yours? This model teaches that fate is not something that happens to you, but something you collaborate with. Every event, especially the difficult ones, are threads in the tapestry of your life, and loving your fate means trusting the weaver. So here is a challenging but powerful prompt. Can you identify a recent difficulty in your life, a disappointment, a delay, or a frustration? Now pause and actively reframe it. Ask yourself, what hidden benefit might this contain? How could this very thing in time become something I am quietly grateful for? This is not about denying pain, but about discovering the purpose that pain can serve. Loving your fate reshapes your relationship with difficulty, but it requires a perspective shift that can feel immense. A fourth mental model offers a practical tool to achieve that shift instantly, a mental exercise known as the view from above. This is not about escapism, but about cultivating a profound sense of context. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius practiced this regularly, writing reminders to himself. Think of the whole of existence, he advised, and the tiny space that is yours. He would visualize looking down from the stars, seeing the bustling cities, the vast oceans, and the brief, flickering lives of individuals, including his own. From that cosmic vantage point, his personal worries, political struggles, and even his empire seemed small, temporary parts of a grand, flowing whole. The purpose is not to diminish your life's importance, but to drain the false urgency and self-importance from your anxieties. That argument with a colleague, that looming deadline, that embarrassing mistake, they lose their crushing weight when you see them as brief moments in a long human story. To apply this, you do not need to meditate on the cosmos. You can simply step outside on a clear night and look up at the stars, or in a moment of stress, close your eyes and mentally pull the camera back. See your office building from the sky, your city from the atmosphere, your country from space. Notice how your immediate crisis shrinks in scale. Alternatively, contemplate the long arc of your own life. That project you are stressed about today, where will it sit in your memory 5 years from now? This exercise cultivates humility and peace, not by ignoring your problems, but by seeing them in their true proportion. It is a reminder that you are part of something vast and ancient, and this brings a strange, steadying comfort. So here is a question to sit with. When you next feel overwhelmed, trapped in the tight focus of pressure, how might deliberately seeing your situation from this much broader, higher perspective change the very texture of your feelings about it? Between an event and your reaction, there is a space, and in that space lies your power. The Stoics gave this crucial pause a name: objective representation, or seeing things as they are, not as our fears or hopes paint them. This is the fifth mental model, and it is the practice of inserting a moment of clear sight between the raw input of the world and your emotional output. The philosopher Epictetus put it with piercing simplicity: men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. Your initial impression of any event is almost never a fact. It is a story your mind instantly creates, colored by past experiences, insecurities, and desires. Objective representation is the discipline of pausing that story to examine the bare facts. Think of it as a mental filter, stripping away the charged adjectives and dramatic narratives to reveal the neutral data underneath. Consider the moment you receive critical feedback on a project you poured your heart into. The raw, unfiltered impression might scream, "They hate my work, I am a failure, this is a personal attack." the objective representation would describe the same event with clinical calm. The document contains suggestions for change. The person speaking used a firm tone. 3 specific points were highlighted as areas for improvement. Do you feel the seismic shift? The first interpretation is a story that triggers defensiveness, shame, or anger. The second is a simple set of facts that you can choose to engage with logically. The event itself did not change, only your view of it did, and in that shift, your entire range of possible responses transforms from reactive to strategic. This is not about becoming cold or unfeeling. It is about granting yourself the freedom to choose your feelings rather than being ambushed by them. So take that recent negative impression you had, perhaps a terse message from a friend or a sudden change in plans that frustrated you. Now describe it again. Strip it of all judgment, all assumption, all story. What are the plain, observable facts? This act of translation is where calm decision-making truly begins. This practice of objective representation clears the mental fog, allowing you to see the world with startling clarity. But what do you see when that fog lifts? The Stoics perceived not a collection of isolated events, but a single, living tapestry. This brings us to the 6th mental model, Sympatheia, the profound belief in the interconnectedness of all things. The universe, to a Stoic, was not a random chaos but a rational, unified organism. Every person, every event, every falling leaf was a thread woven into a single, intelligent whole. Marcus Aurelius returned to this idea constantly, reminding himself of our shared nature. We are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of upper and lower teeth. To act against one another is contrary to nature, and it is acting against one another to be vexed and to turn away. This perspective is a powerful antidote to the daily friction of life. When someone cuts you off in traffic or a colleague makes a frustrating mistake, the immediate personal story is one of offense. Sympatheia asks you to zoom out. That driver is not a malicious agent targeting you, but a node in a vast, flowing system of human stress, schedules, and unseen pressures. Your colleague operates within a web of their own experiences, limitations, and information you cannot see. Seeing them as part of the same interconnected system you inhabit does not excuse poor behavior, but it drains the personal venom from your reaction. Your frustration transforms from a hot, personal anger into a cooler, more strategic understanding of a system in motion. You stop asking, "Why are they doing this to me?" and start asking, "What chain of causes led to this moment, and what is my most constructive role within it?" This model fosters a deep, abiding patience. It is the recognition that we are all, in a very real sense, sailing the same sea, subject to the same storms. So consider that source of irritation in your own life. How might viewing that person or situation not as an isolated enemy, but as a moving part in an immense, interconnected machine, soften the edges of your impatience and open the door to a calmer, more effective response? Sympatheia connects you to the vast web of life, but it is a web with a definite end for each thread. This truth introduces the 7th mental model, perhaps the most misunderstood and powerful of all, Memento Mori. Remember, you must die. At first glance, this sounds dark, even morbid. Yet for the Stoics, it was the ultimate tool for clarity and vibrant living. It is not a call to fear, but a stark reminder to prioritize. The philosopher Seneca wrote extensively on this, arguing that it is not death we should fear, but the possibility of a life half-lived. He observed in his letters that we do not receive a short life, we make it short. We are not given a poor life, we make it poor through delay and distraction. Contemplating your own finite time is the sharpest tool for cutting through life's noise. Imagine facing a high-pressure decision at work, one tangled with office politics and personal pride. The anxiety feels immense. Now, apply Memento Mori. View that decision from the perspective of your final days. Will the petty rivalry matter then? Will the temporary embarrassment hold any weight, or will only the integrity of your choice, the courage you showed, and the value you created remain important? This model instantly separates the trivial from the essential. It forces a simple, piercing question. Is this how I want to spend a portion of my irreplaceable time? That awareness creates a profound urgency, not for frantic activity, but for purposeful action. It silences the chatter of superficial concerns and amplifies the quiet voice of your core values. So let this be a reflective prompt, not a somber one. If you carried the conscious awareness that your time is limited, what one inconsequential worry would you finally release? And what one meaningful action, long postponed, would you begin today? That pause before you react, the space where you choose your story, has a formal name in Stoic practice. It is called the Discipline of Assent. This eighth mental model is the ultimate gatekeeper of your inner peace. The philosopher Epictetus described it as our most critical faculty. Do not be carried away by the vividness of the impression, he warned, but say, wait for me a little, impression. Allow me to see who you are and what you represent. Allow me to test you. Assent is your deliberate agreement, your inner yes or no, to any initial thought or feeling that arises. The discipline is in withholding that automatic agreement long enough to examine the impression for its truth. Your mind is not a passive receiver of data, it is an active judge. Every moment it is presented with impressions, and you have the sovereign power to either endorse them or dismiss them. Think of a time someone made an offhand comment that stung. Your initial impression might have been a sharp, internal voice declaring, that was disrespectful, they do not value me. The untrained mind instantly assents. It believes that story completely, and the emotional cascade of anger or hurt follows automatically. The disciplined mind, however, intercepts that impression at the gate. It says, wait, is this comment truly a statement about my worth, or could it be a reflection of that person's own stress, a simple misunderstanding, or even a poorly worded attempt at humor? By withholding your immediate assent, you create a buffer zone between the external event and your internal world. You are no longer a puppet jerked by the strings of every passing impression. You become the puppeteer, carefully choosing which strings to pull. This pause is not inaction, it is your most powerful action. It is the superpower of not being mentally hijacked. So reflect on this for a moment. Can you recall a recent instance where you automatically, without question, assented to a negative impression? Perhaps it was a feeling of inadequacy when seeing someone else's success, or a spike of anxiety from an ambiguous text message. Now rewind that moment in your mind. What might have unfolded differently if you had simply withheld your agreement, just for a few breaths, to question the story your mind was so eager to tell? Withholding your assent is a defensive move, a way to stop negative impressions from storming the gates. But what fuels those impressions in the first place? Often it is a deep-seated, unquestioned want. This brings us to the ninth mental model, the discipline of desire. The Stoics drew a critical line between natural, healthy desires and those that lead directly to turmoil. A desire for nourishment, for learning, for connection, these are aligned with our nature. The trouble begins when we desire things that are not truly up to us, things like constant praise, flawless outcomes, or the unwavering agreement of others. Epictetus offered the clearest instruction. Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will go well. In other words, align your desires with reality and virtue, not with fleeting external rewards. When your deepest wants are hooked to outcomes you cannot control, you hand over your peace of mind as collateral. Chasing the next promotion, the perfect social media image, or a life of uninterrupted comfort creates a permanent state of internal pressure, because the world will never reliably provide those things on your schedule. The discipline asks you to audit your desires and consciously redirect them. Instead of desiring to win the negotiation, desire to prepare thoroughly, to listen intently, and to communicate with honesty and respect. The external result, the signed contract or the lost deal, moves outside the circle of your desire. Your satisfaction becomes rooted in the quality of your own performance, which is entirely within your command. This shift is liberating. You enter the high-stakes meeting not as a beggar hoping for a yes, but as an artist focused on the integrity of your craft. The pressure to control the uncontrollable evaporates. So here is a reflective question to sit with. What is one desire you currently hold that depends entirely on an external outcome? Perhaps it is a desire for a specific person's approval, or for a particular financial goal to be reached by a certain date. Now, how could you reformulate that desire so it depends solely on your own character, your effort, and your virtuous action, regardless of what the world delivers in return? Desire governs what you want, but action determines what you do. The 10th mental model brings these inner disciplines into the visible world. It is called the Discipline of Action, and it answers a critical question. Once you have cleared your mind and aligned your desires, how do you actually move through the world, especially when the pressure is on? For the Stoics, right action was never just about the outcome, the what. It was fundamentally about the how and the why. It is the principle of acting with right intention and for the common good, even and especially when you are under duress. This directly counters our instinct for reactive, selfish, or frantic behavior when the stakes are high. Marcus Aurelius, who spent decades leading an empire through war and crisis, constantly drilled this into his own mind. He wrote, "Let every action aim solely at the common good." And in another moment, he offered this piercing lens. Do every act of your life as if it were your last, acting with dignity, with sincere purpose, and with justice. Imagine that weight. If this were your final act, how would its character change? The frantic rush to just finish would fade. The temptation to cut corners or blame others would lose its appeal. What would rise to the surface is the quality of the action itself, the integrity woven into the effort. Consider a modern team racing against a brutal deadline. The pressure is immense, and the reactive mind screams for shortcuts, for pushing others unfairly, for focusing only on the finish line. The discipline of action asks for a different focus. It shifts your primary goal from merely finishing the task to contributing to it effectively, justly, and in a way that strengthens the team. Your attention moves from the ticking clock to the person you are helping, the code you are writing with care, the report you are crafting with clarity. You act not for personal glory or to simply escape the pressure, but because the work itself, done well and rightly, is a worthy expression of your character. This does not slow you down. It channels your energy with immense precision, eliminating the wasted motion of resentment, panic, and ethical compromise. So here is a prompt for your next moment of pressure. In your next pressured action, whether a difficult conversation or a demanding project, can you consciously focus more on acting with integrity, with sincere purpose, and for the common good, and a little less on the immediate, frantic result? Notice how this subtle shift in intention transforms the experience of the pressure itself. When pressure mounts, your first move is not to think, but to create space. This is the Stoic Pause, the practical technique that makes every other model possible. It is the conscious decision to insert a sliver of time, however brief, between the trigger and your reaction, breaking the automatic cycle that pressure relies upon. The Roman philosopher Seneca, who wrote extensively on managing anger, framed this pause as a form of deliberate delay. The greatest remedy for anger is delay, he advised. Give your initial impulse time to settle, ask it to wait a while. In that waiting, the heat of the moment cools and clarity has room to emerge. This is not a complex meditation. It is the simple, physical act of taking one deliberate, deep breath before you speak, or consciously counting to 3 in the silence of your own mind. Consider the modern equivalent of a provocation, the stressful email that arrives with a demanding tone. Your fingers may itch to type a defensive, equally sharp reply immediately. The Stoic pause is the decision to close the window, stand up, and walk away for just 10 minutes. In that space, the initial surge of emotion recedes. You return not with a reaction, but with a potential response, one you have chosen rather than been hijacked by. This tiny gap is where your agency lies. It is the difference between being a passenger on a runaway train and being the engineer who can gently apply the brakes. So make this your actionable commitment. Identify one daily trigger, perhaps the ping of a certain notification or the tone of a particular person's request. The next time it occurs, before you do anything else, institute a deliberate 5-second pause. Just 5 seconds of stillness and breath. Notice how that microscopic canyon of space changes everything about what comes next. But what happens when that pause reveals a deeper, more persistent source of stress? Our world is engineered for comfort, for the seamless avoidance of any friction. Yet the Stoics saw a hidden danger in this constant ease. They prescribed a counterintuitive antidote, the 12th mental model, voluntary discomfort. This is the deliberate, periodic choice to embrace minor hardship, not as a form of self-punishment, but as a form of training. Philosophers like Seneca and Musonius Rufus were strong advocates. Seneca would sometimes dress in rough clothing, sleep on a hard bed, or eat only simple, plain food for a period. His purpose was clear. He wrote that by practicing poverty, he could reassure himself that the loss of wealth held no terror for him. The goal is not to live in perpetual austerity, but to prove to yourself that your peace of mind does not depend on external conditions. You are not building a fortress to keep discomfort out. You are becoming the kind of person who remains unshaken when discomfort inevitably finds a way in. This practice builds a specific form of resilience, a psychological callus. It reduces the fear of future deprivation because you have already faced a controlled version of it and emerged not only intact but stronger. It strengthens the will by reminding you that you can say no to an impulse, that you can endure a minor inconvenience without complaint. In a modern context, this could be as simple as taking a cold shower instead of a hot one, fasting from social media for a weekend, walking instead of driving for a short errand, or taking on a difficult physical task like a long hike. Each act is a small vote for self-reliance. It whispers to your subconscious, I am not fragile. I can handle more than I think. This is not about grand gestures of suffering, but about the micro-choices that rebuild your relationship with ease. So here is your practical prompt for the week ahead. What one small, regular comfort could you voluntarily give up? It might be that second cup of coffee, the automatic scroll through your phone in bed, or choosing the stairs over the elevator. The point is not the act itself, but the conscious decision behind it. In that choice, you are not avoiding pressure. You are inviting a manageable dose of it into your life on your own terms to prove who is really in command. Pressure creates a powerful illusion of addition. You feel you must add more hours, more strategies, more backup plans, more anxious thoughts. The mind, under strain, becomes a cluttered room, and you keep trying to shove more furniture into it. The 13th mental model offers a radically different path. It is the art of subtraction. The Stoics understood that true power and calm are not found in accumulation, but in the courageous act of removal. Your capacity is not expanded by what you add, but by what you deliberately take away. Seneca, who witnessed the immense complexity and wealth of imperial Rome, wrote often about the liberation of simplicity. He observed that wealth is the slave of a wise man and the master of a fool. For the wise, it is a tool to be used lightly; for the fool, a burden that complicates every decision. The art of subtraction is not about having nothing. It is about removing everything that is not essential to your virtue and your purpose, especially when the heat is on. Under pressure, your first instinct is to grasp for more control, more information, more activity. The Stoic asks a counterintuitive question: what can I let go of? This subtraction operates on three levels. First, subtract physical and digital distractions. That could mean turning off non-essential notifications during a deep work session, or clearing a literal space on your desk before tackling a difficult task. Second, subtract unnecessary commitments. So often, the pressure we feel is a product of our own yeses, of obligations we took on that drain energy from our core responsibilities. Third, and most crucially, subtract complicating thoughts. These are the layers of narrative, the what-ifs, the catastrophic projections, and the ego-driven stories that you pile on top of the simple event itself. You take a challenging project, and before you even begin, you add the story that it will define your career, the fear of your peers' judgment, and the anxiety of an imagined failure. The art of subtraction strips all that away. It reduces the complex problem to its most basic, actionable elements. Imagine facing a conflict in a relationship that feels overwhelmingly tangled. Subtraction would have you identify the single core issue. Is it a specific action that caused hurt? Is it an unmet expectation? Strip away the history of past arguments, the assumptions about the other person's character, and the fear of future awkwardness. Focus only on that one clear point. From that clean slate, a virtuous action, like a respectful conversation or a sincere apology, becomes not only possible but clear. This is what Seneca meant by the simplicity of a wise life. It is a life decluttered of the inessential, so that the essential has room to breathe and act. So bring this to your own experience. Looking at a current source of pressure in your life, what one thing could you subtract? It might be a belief, like I must handle this perfectly alone. It might be a task, like an optional meeting that saps your focus. It might be a persistent worry that you rehearse daily, but that changes nothing. Identify it, and then, with intention, let it go. Create that empty space and notice how the pressure begins to dissipate, not because the challenge vanished, but because you finally gave your clarity room to operate. Subtracting the inessential clears the stage for your most focused effort. Yet that effort itself must be governed by a final, crucial principle, one that harmonizes your deepest striving with your deepest peace. This 14th mental model is known as the reserve clause or the exceptional clause. It is the practice of attaching a quiet, powerful phrase to every one of your plans and endeavors. I will do this, fate permitting, or I will see this through if nothing prevents me. This is not a disclaimer born of doubt, but a declaration of wisdom. It allows you to pour your entire being into an effort while simultaneously holding the outcome with an open hand. The Stoics advised this to bridge the gap between our controlled actions and the uncontrollable world. You commit to the process with absolute integrity, while accepting that the final result is not yours to command. Consider an athlete training for a major competition. Their reserve clause is not a half-hearted effort. It is the opposite. They train with relentless discipline, optimizing every meal, every workout, every hour of sleep. They give their goal 100% of their focused action. Yet, woven into that commitment is the silent acknowledgement, fate permitting. An unexpected injury, a sudden illness, or even a change in the weather on the day of the event could intervene. The reserve clause does not make them train any less hard. It prepares their spirit so that if such an intervention occurs, their response is not one of shattered identity or rage against the universe, but a calm recalibration. Their worth was never solely in the medal, but in the character forged during the 1,000 hours of preparation. In your own life, this might apply to a business launch, a creative project, or a personal milestone. You do the work, you develop the product, you write the draft, you save the money. You act as if success depends entirely on you. Yet you hold the plan lightly, understanding that market shifts, personal circumstances, or simple luck play a role. This clause defeats the tyranny of attachment. It prevents you from tying your entire sense of self to a single, fragile outcome. So here is a reflective prompt to carry forward. How could adding a silent fate permitting to your current main goal change your relationship to the potential for failure or interruption? Would it perhaps free you to strive even more boldly, knowing that your peace is not held hostage by the result? The reserve clause allows you to strive fully while accepting the world's unpredictability. This acceptance rests on a final, foundational model, the principle of cosmic indifference. This term can be misleading, for it has nothing to do with a cold, uncaring universe. Instead, it describes a specific form of judgment. To the Stoic, the cosmos itself is rational and ordered, but it is indifferent to our personal preferences about what should happen. More importantly, it teaches us to view external events and objects with the same measured neutrality. Things outside our control, from wealth and poverty to health and illness, from praise and blame to success and failure, are classified as adiaphora, meaning indifference. They are not inherently good or bad. Their moral value is determined solely by how we use them, by the virtue or vice we bring to their presence or absence. A storm is not evil, it is a meteorological event. How you prepare for it or how you help others in its wake is where goodness or folly resides. This is the ultimate mental liberation from fortune's roller coaster. You are no longer elated by a windfall of praise because you see it as a preferred indifferent, something nice to have but not a measure of your worth. You are no longer devastated by a loss of status because you see it as a dispreferred indifferent, something you would rather avoid, but not a catastrophe that can touch your core character. The Roman statesman Cato the Younger was known for this unshakable posture. Whether he was walking through the forum in a triumphant procession or sleeping on the hard ground as a defeated soldier, his demeanor reportedly remained the same. The external circumstances had changed dramatically, but his judgment of them, his internal valuation, had not. He treated both luxury and hardship with the same indifference because neither could add to or subtract from his virtue. For us, this applies directly to the pressures of modern life. You receive a glowing performance review. The indifferent model allows you to appreciate the feedback, to use it to improve, but prevents you from building your entire identity upon it, which would make the next piece of criticism devastating. Conversely, you face a public failure. The model helps you see the event not as a verdict on your soul, but as raw material. How will you use this dispreferred indifferent? Will it be fuel for learning, for resilience, for a more honest assessment of your methods? The pressure to be constantly winning, to avoid all loss, dissolves. You are playing a different game entirely, one focused on the quality of your choices, not the trophies on your shelf. So here is a powerful reflection. What is one thing you highly value, perhaps your job title, your social media following, or a particular possession, that according to this Stoic principle, is actually an indifferent, a preferred one, but an indifferent nonetheless? How does seeing it through that lens soften the grip of your attachment to it, and in doing so, quietly disarm one of your deepest sources of daily pressure? The path to calm is not found by silencing the storm, but by learning to steer your own ship within it. These 15 mental models are not abstract philosophy. They are a practical navigation system for the mind. Each one is a deliberate, trainable skill that builds your capacity to govern your own reactions when the world feels ungovernable. The overarching theme is a profound shift in focus, from the chaotic theater of external events to the quiet, sovereign stage of your internal virtue and judgment. You cannot stop the waves, but you can learn to sail. The Stoic goal was never to become emotionless, but to become unshakable, to replace reactive turbulence with chosen tranquility. Epictetus, whose wisdom threads through these models, offered a final, unifying thought. He said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. it is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. The tranquility you seek is not a distant destination. It is the natural byproduct of that disciplined focus. So where do you begin? Do not feel you must master all 15 at once. That is the old pattern of pressure speaking. Instead, choose just one or two that resonated most deeply with you this week. Perhaps it is practicing the Stoic Pause before you reply to a stressful message, or applying the art of subtraction to a cluttered project. The goal is to transform intellectual knowledge into lived habit, one deliberate choice at a time. We would love to hear which model you plan to practice. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you found this toolkit valuable, consider subscribing for more practical wisdom on navigating life with clarity and purpose. Your journey toward unshakable calm continues with your very next breath and your very next choice.